Desiree, and you're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
And good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano. We have a lot of people back in the studio here today. And Keith is at the Black Caucus in Washington, D.C.
Yes, ALC.
ALC is going on, so wish him luck over there in the travel to Washington, D.C. And I don't know how good it is to always go to Washington, D.C. these days, but it is what it is. Tom Choate, a community activist, fellow Spartan who died with the rest of us watching that game last night.
It was a heart attack level game. Yeah, exciting, thrilling, but ultimately disappointing.
Yeah, no offense as usual. Okay, Police Commissioner Willie Burton is here with us. Good morning, Willie.
Good morning.
And boy, so subtle and quiet. Look at there. We got to get him juiced up here.
Yeah, well, he wasn't watching the Spartans with the rest of us. That would really juice anyone up.
Well, Tom told me that before the show here that he was so frustrated he went out and he had to go out and jog to get it out of the system yesterday after watching it, right?
Uh-huh.
And Scotty Boman, our residential Libertarian. Scotty, how you doing this morning?
All right. Good morning, Southeast Michigan.
The state of Michigan. I think this radio station goes all the way through the state of Michigan.
We brought to you this morning by 50,000 watts on the Barbara Ficano show.
Amen. Yeah.
So we have a lot of things that we could start to delve into. Besides Michigan State losing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas is the debates, people's observations on what happened. Do you think anybody moved up or down? Do you think that Elizabeth Warren seems to be gaining momentum in what's going on? Bernie seems a little bit out of steam, or he seems to be angrier. It seems like there's a new set of people running. It doesn't seem to have the same passion that you saw previously in the way that it was set up, but we'll see what how that went, how that's going to go with it. Senator Harris, he seems to be just flatlining right now.
Yeah, it was a pretty flat debate overall. I mean, there were several attacks lobbed against Joe Biden. Joe Biden also had a couple of pretty notable gaffes, if you will. His answer on what he would do about repairing race relations in this country was definitely something where I think his campaign really wants to take it back. But overall, you didn't see, I don't think, and you guys chime with your opinion, but I don't think there was very much movement.
I think when we get to October, I think that's when we're going to start seeing a lot of excitement and some shifting in the debates come October.
Yeah, because there's another round of debates. It's another, there's another bar. So the question is, how many candidates are going to qualify for October? Are we going to see even more than the current 10? Are we going to see some of these folks who didn't qualify but are still, quote-unquote, running? These would be like Tulsi Gabbard and John Delaney. Some of these folks, you haven't really heard about. They missed the cutoff for September, but will they make it for October?
I don't know. I think once you're out of sight, out of mind, it gets much more difficult. Because when you talk about the threshold, I don't know if it's bumped up to 2% that they got to do. I know it's 2% for this last debate. I don't know if it goes higher than that for the next debate now in October. Where's it going to be? New York, isn't it?
Something like that.
CNN's going to sponsor it. I know that.
Yeah, and it's a combination. It's not only how you're polling, it's also how many donors you have.
Yeah.
And I think these folks who were excluded from this debate, they're going to find their donor base just completely dries up. And hopefully, Willie, to your point, that means we'll have fewer folks in the race so that we can get some more energy around the folks who are truly serious contenders. That would be great to see.
Did you see Castro's attack on Biden, which seemed to fall flat? I mean, Harris was able to do it, in the first debate. But Castro, he went after Biden. He said, the thing about that's not what you said 2 minutes ago. Did you forget already? I mean, it was ham-handed in the way that he tried to do it, and I think it just really hurt him. Plus, he came out of the same administration that Biden did, so it's much harder to, sort of contradict him that what have you been doing, for those 8 years versus, well, you were in the same administration. What were you doing during that time, too?
I mean, it's the same attack that he's been running consistently. He's framing himself. He's trying to differentiate himself as I'm the young candidate, right? That's the ownership he's trying to take. Even though he is a younger candidate, he's not necessarily the young candidate, but he's trying to forge that niche for himself, and that's what he's doing by attacking Biden on his age consistently, no matter what. And it doesn't seem to be working for him.
Do you think Biden's going to refrain from attacking him based on his youth and inexperience?
Hey, I mean, but
that was the line that Reagan used on Mondale. I mean, I don't know if anybody else remembers that.
Yes. Yeah.
No, these debates have just started to warm up, and just get your popcorn and extra butter ready, and let's get ready for the excitement in October. You know, you're going to start to. It's going to be interesting going to October.
Who's the billionaire that qualified? I think he qualified. What was his name?
Is it Tom Steyer?
Steyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if Steyer qualified or not. I know he's still in the race, supposedly.
The CEO of Starbucks dropped out.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know if he was ever in it.
Yeah, but he was always an independent too. He never really said that he was going to become the Democrat. So.
Well, isn't Bernie sort of running as independent too? He never joined the party.
Never joined the party, but he was running as a Democrat. So he did declare as a Democrat.
One thing about Bernie definitely have a movement, and and some of these other campaigns are just starting to get going, and so you're gonna look at Bernie. Gonna get through, really gonna get through these debates, smoothly going into Iowa and also New Hampshire. Tom Sayers is gonna do,
one of the problems I perceive that Biden's gonna, I mean, he really fluffed. There was a question about integration, racial justice, and everything else, and he sort of flubbed that. And his base is African Americans that sort of romance with him with President Obama, and so you wonder if he can't articulate. And I mean, okay, somebody my age, when you talk about a record player and stuff like that, I think a lot of people are saying, "What are you talking about? Talking about a record player?"
And it's one of those things where it's the entirety of his response. So for those who haven't seen the debate or haven't heard about the coverage, Vice President Biden, was asked. What he would do as president to deal with racial reconciliation in the United States. And the first thing he did is he went into education. He started saying, we're going to go and triple the amount of funding that we put into the Department of Education from $15 billion to $45 billion a year to try to give teachers a pay raise to $60,000 a year. So right from there, he completely lost the track of where the question was going and started pivoting into these other areas.
Like a record player.
And then he went into
away from the
difference, the difference
like
that, children from lower income families, they hear fewer words spoken as young children. So he said leave the TV or ultimately the record player on while these kids are sleeping so you can hear more words. Again, it just kind of,
Is that actually now a verified method of education, sleep teaching? Because I when I was a kid, I was never convinced of it.
Yeah, well,
I wish it would have worked. I think we all would have been a lot smarter back in school.
But that was kind of where, so for those, who are just catching up, that's where his response went, and a lot of people feel that he just completely missed the mark. Because then after that, too, he went over time. They tried to cut him off, and then he fought for even more time to go.
He says they all went over, so I am too, or something like that was the comment.
Yeah, so.
Okay, we got a couple callers who want to weigh in over here. Okay, Greg, you're on with the panel. Greg?
Hey, good morning, you guys. Yes,
good morning.
Electrifying Mr. Positive, yes. I can't believe I'm hearing what I'm hearing. You guys seem to be happy. The Electrifying Mr. Positive does not understand. Seems like you guys are becoming delusional. Now, Scotty, you're going to have to help me. I can go through a lot of points here. Pete Buttigieg called everybody a racist that voted for Trump. He alluded to it, number one. Number two, where do you think all this money is going to come in with all these programs and paying for the education and the medical, all the medical for everybody? $30 trillion. Yes, we spent $20 trillion over a course of 20 years, $18 trillion in the Army in Afghanistan, but that's over years, and yes, it's wrong. Number one, and we're paying for it, and it's raising. Number three, private health care. Your unions are fighting for a certain health care. Do you honestly think, and you guys believe in unions, and I don't. At one time they were great. He looks fine. Mr. Positive doesn't believe in it because I can make 500 widgets. You can make 100 widgets, and you're going to get paid the same way. But it's another. I don't care about that. But you want to change the unions, and you want to tell the unions that you can't have your own personal health care. You guys can honestly sit there and really think these Democrats are they're on the right path for America.
Well,
you think socialism in some way, shape, or form? Yes, it's out there a little bit. We have a mixed economy. Yes, we can debate that until the cows come home.
Hey, Greg, since you first directed the question to me, but then you say you guys, and let me make it clear. I get along with my friends over here, but I don't necessarily, in fact, I definitely don't agree frequently, and the things you mentioned are definitely are things I can respond to. First of all, where does the money come from? Well, I think you and I know that most of the time the money isn't even there, and it's a bunch of promises. But when they do end up spending money on these things, where it comes from is you and I. And for instance, if Biden's solution is to help education by spending more federal money on it, well, he's taking it from the states. So the states have less money to spend on it. So, and from the people, so they have less, and that's why you don't even see many private schools anymore.
Greg, go ahead.
Ficano right now, who makes, let's say, makes $150,000 a year, whatever, in his other adventures. I know he doesn't make anything doing this.
No, Bob Ficano does not make $150,000 a year. But go ahead.
If you want to give him $150,000 a year, that'd be nice.
Yeah, you got a company that will pay me that? Go ahead, Greg.
Third, I want you guys to make a third of what you're living off of and just accept it so you can pay for everyone else's problems and their inability to go out and get a job.
Greg, part of what the attraction is about what they're saying, and we don't say we agree with all of it, is the insurance companies. How much do you pay to all the insurance companies for all your medical care? And what do? They're the gatekeepers are saying whether you get that medical care or not. Okay, I happen to be going through some of that experience right now with my father because he had to go into the hospital. He had to go to a rehab center. I'm sitting there with the insurance company every 4 days, whether he qualifies for Medicare or not. Medicaid, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or Medicare. Medicaid.
Well, is he dual eligible?
Yes.
Oh,
no. He's not dual eligible. Okay. No, he's 90. So I mean, for the Medicare.
Yeah. Okay.
And so every 5 days, there's a review. Is he eligible for the rehab and everything else that is going on? And I spend as much time doing the insurance forms and trying to figure out what's going on with him. And part of it is they said, oh, you got to have the care at the house. He's got to pick all that up himself. Okay, when he comes back, all right, or if you try to put him into a nursing home, which I'm not going to do, but if you try to put him in, you got to spend all of your assets down before they qualify to say that there's going to be any kind of assistance. Yeah. So they're going after this system because it doesn't work. I mean, the insurance companies are the ones that are controlling everything that happens. And so you got this boogeyman that's out there, really, that's easy to attack because you can go across the board. It's not only health insurance. If you have a claim, if you've had a fire in your house, try to get the adjuster to pay you what your fair share is without litigation. They just don't do it anymore. We've seen what the insurance companies have done in the auto industry. Okay, how the costs have all gone up.
Every other issue, yes.
So that's the broad approach that they're taking, and they're getting traction on it.
But the thing is, what if that was the only insurance company, and that insurance company was also running the government?
Well, Biden didn't say that. Biden said, okay, you have your own insurance company, you've negotiated through the union, you can go ahead and you can do that. We're just saying here's an alternative for everybody else that they're able to get the government insurance if you want it.
Real quick, you're saying that they're getting traction, but the what do you call the people that have all the billions that tell government what they can do? Help me, I'm having a brain fart.
Well, and Greg, I think you're also hitting on that good point about how, and Scotty, you can definitely get on board with this too, that at the end of the day, it's not about Democrats or Republicans or Libertarians or anything like that. It's about the money that enters the political system. And so as long as these insurance companies are going and giving untold money right? That's what's going to corrupt our entire system. So it's not
Okay,
about
and
people.
I know we say all that, but the Supreme Court has spoken on that. You're not. You got to deal from reality. The Supreme Court has said, and we may not all like it, the Supreme Court has said that they have a right to express themselves under the First Amendment by spending all this money. We can't change that. I don't think you're going to be able to get enough members on the Supreme Court at the rate we're going.
Well, unless you talk to Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
which,
well,
referencing the debates. That guy. Yeah.
Or Pete, no, he was on the guns, right. Yeah, Pete wants to expand the court.
Yes.
FDR tried that. They never worked.
Yeah.
FDR tried that. It didn't work.
Increase the number of justices?
No, he tried to get a bill passed to go from 9 to, I don't know, 15 or something.
Yeah, he tried to.
Because they kept knocking down his New Deal.
Exactly.
And what he was doing, and so he tried to get legislation to pass it.
They don't work, wants to take away our guns, and the way he wants to do it is confiscate inventory.
Okay.
Yeah, that actually bothered me more than anything else I heard out of that
These
debate.
things are going on.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good. You guys aren't going to beat Trump if you're living on this. Just trust me on that.
Okay, I think you want the truth? I think Trump's going to beat himself. That's what it's going to come down to. Trump is going to beat himself.
You guys aren't going to.
Well, but Trump's going to beat himself. People are tired of the drama. They're tired of the lie. They talk about how what's the truth and not truth and stuff. There's a truth that comes out of his mouth every day.
12,000 lies. I want to know who's counting the 12,000 lies. That's incredible. Someone going down with a little piece of paper going, "There's a lie. There's a lie." And
no, what they do is categorize just as tweets.
Categorize.
He provides enough of a written record.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg, for calling in, but we got to take the next caller.
Okay, thanks, Greg. We appreciate it. Next up, we have Jimmy. Jimmy, you're on? Jimmy?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call. I didn't see any clear winners last night or the other night. I didn't see any clear losers except for maybe Castro kind of shot himself in the foot with the attack on Biden. I think he's going to be the first male on that 10 group of 10 to drop out.
I'm sorry, who did you say, Jimmy?
Be the first woman
Willie
to drop
Castro.
out in that group of 10. Also, here's my thoughts. I think going through the primary process, I think the Democrats are going to have a brokered convention. I don't see anybody coming out of the primaries as a clear winner. And then when the convention comes, I think you're going to see a brokered primary. And I agree with caller Paul, who said in the past that Biden's going to get the nod. He's going to choose a far-left progressive vice president. He's going to drop out for health reasons, and that vice president's going to become the president. I think that's going to be that's the plan.
I don't think Biden would put himself through this.
Yeah.
I don't think Biden would put himself through this to drop out, if you want the truth. I mean, he could have a pretty comfortable life right now.
He will win the election, and for health reasons, he will resign from office.
They said the same thing about Trump.
Yeah.
They said the same thing about Trump, that he'd win and then he'd just have enough kits built up to increase his business and then turn it over to Pence.
But with credit to Jimmy here, I don't think it's planned. I don't think someone runs for president planning to not complete his term. But I do think we always need to be aware of who vice presidential candidates are, because those people sometimes do and may become president. And so when one votes, one needs to look at both candidates and consider, hey, okay, I like the guy running for president. What is the guy for vice president like? And would I be willing to deal with him as my president if the first guy had to leave office for whatever reason?
Well, and Jimmy, I will say, I think you are right to a certain extent on there going to be a broker convention, that we've got a lot of strong candidates on the Democratic side who are going to do well. And, it's like Willie said.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, I think that it is going to be.
All weak candidates. That's why you're going to have a broker convention.
Jimmy, I think it's coming down to the three candidates.
You got it when they're weak candidates.
No, it's coming down to three candidates, and I'm not a particularly Bernie fan. And although dealing with my father's issues, maybe I've become more of a fan in the past week. But I think it's going to come down to Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden. I think those are the three that are going to emerge at this point. And one of the problems with that is that what are they saying about the cities, the African American vote, and things like that? Are we slipping back into we're expecting you to vote the right way here? Okay?
Well, no, here's the thing. When the Democrats are running for office, to get the black vote, you're going to play the race card. To get the old people's vote, you're going to play the Medicare, they're going to take away your Social Security card.
Trump actually looked at that.
The green card, the green deal card. That's the plan, gentlemen. I mean, come on. You can't sit there and say it's not. I mean, to get the old vote, you got to scare them into thinking you're going to take away your Social Security.
And what's the
vote, you're going to talk about the Green New Deal. You want to get the.
Hey,
also,
let's get through October debates.
Yeah.
Get that popcorn ready, y'all.
You think they're counting on people voting their fears and not their hopes?
Hey,
But
that's
the
what
Republicans,
Trump-
wait
yeah.
a minute.
That's what Trump's
That
doing.
is what Trump does. He's been one of the greatest dividers in the history of this country, and he's held public office.
And he had
It's the press and the Democrats that have been a great divider. When you win, you're happy. When you lose, you're unhappy. We won. Why would we be so unhappy and run around talking about hate? It's you guys.
Oh, no. Just take a look at what Trump says, okay?
Yeah.
The ultra-right and everything else. He says, David Duke, who's that? I don't know him.
That's what we talk about lies.
Divide
How about
you guys.
CNN's lies? How about CNN? And when they lie, they're never going to admit to their lies.
Well,
Rachel Maddow's got a $10 million lawsuit.
Okay.
What's his name had to recant his story.
But how many times should Trump have recanted his story, okay? All right? You can do simple things like the hurricane's going to hit Alabama, okay? He doesn't know if the truth hit him right between the eyes.
I think you handle. There's going to be a lot of distractions.
Yes, there is.
And let's just get through October, gentlemen.
Well, and another thing, too, that this weekend, so we're talking a lot about the Democratic debates, but there was another event that happened during those debates. It was in Baltimore where Trump met with congressional Republicans and Republican Party leaders.
They
to
really
talk about
pushed
strategy.
back on him.
They talked strategy, and the message for 2020 came out, which is you have no choice. So talking about fear, that's exactly the playbook for 2020 for Trump.
Okay, Jackie, hold on. Jimmy, thanks for calling in. You have a great Sunday. We're getting to the break. Jackie, your first up right after the break. You're listening 9:10 a.m. the Superstation.
We need to hear something on vision.
So, you've decided to go to college. That's cool. So, pop quiz. Which is a better way to earn your degree? Commute to college and fill your gas tank, get stuck in traffic, drive in bad weather, try to find a parking space, walk a half mile to class, or learn online at Independence University. You don't go to college. College goes to you. That's independence. That's Independence University. And all your supplies, including a brand new laptop and tablet, are included with tuition. Independence U for an independent you.
Call 1-800-556-7791. Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? If so, you may qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. The Fresh Start program is one of the biggest tax breaks the IRS has offered. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150 to see if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Their team of tax experts and attorneys will get you the best tax settlement possible. Call 800-685-6150 now to learn if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150. 800-685-6150.
Are you drowning in debt? Struggling just to make minimum payments? It's not your fault. Serious debt can happen to anyone, but there is hope. Our debt-free program has helped thousands of good people, just like you, eliminate their credit card debt. Call us today, and we will dramatically reduce your credit card debt down to just a fraction of what you owe. The call is free. The consultation is free. Take control of your credit debt. Take control of your life again. Call now to see how our debt-free program can work for you.
Call 800-872-5230.
If you or a loved one underwent hernia surgery between 2010 and 2016 and then suffered serious complications, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Complications associated with physomesh include chronic pain, infection, adhesions, mesh migration, reopening of the hernia, and other serious injuries. Call right now.
Call 1-800-799-2091. Again, that's 1-800-799-2091.
Attention! In July 2018, Bayer announced that it will be halting its sales of Assure. The Assure birth control may break or migrate after insertion, puncturing the fallopian tube, resulting in corrective surgery to remove the device. Thousands of women have reported debilitating health problems to the FDA. In April 2018, the FDA restricted sales of Assure to protect women and required that patients receive risk information.
please call 800-425-9539.
Hi, I'm Hunter Ellis, and this is Atomic Beam USA, another bright idea from Bulbhead, the ultra-bright, tough-grade flashlight that features tactical technology used by U.S. Special Forces. This flashlight has a feeble 125 lux output. The Atomic Beam USA has up to 5,000 lux. That's 40 times more. We're going to drop it hundreds of feet from this helicopter. It hits the tarmac, and it's still working. That's what I call a tough flashlight. Heavy downpours, mud puddles, even extreme temperatures are no match. You could spend over $100, or the Atomic Beam USA can be yours for just $19.99 with free lifetime guarantee. Order now, you can double it and get a second Atomic Beam USA. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll even ship them to you for free. Atomic Beam USA is just $19.99. Order now.
Call 1-800-638-2619 to get your Atomic Beam USA. Call now or go to atomicbeam.com. So call 1-800-638-2619. Deluxe version available. Order now.
910 AM Superstation has arrived, and we're here to stay.
He gonna not stop. You can call him not stop. He just told him to let his gift.
I didn't say the comedy and gospel comedy.
But you just told him to let his gift make room for him.
I know what I'm saying. Sometimes I do so in the hood. I can't be clean. I can be clean or I can be fecal. Don't matter to me. Whatever. I got you.
Diversity.
Diversity, man. I like
I call it being black and forth.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Good morning. You listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano, here with Police Commissioner Willie Burton, Tom Choate, who is a community active, and Scotty Boman, a Libertarian. Before we get to Jackie, I got right here, are you looking for a career in radio sales? 910 AM Superstation is looking for energetic salespeople to sell the hottest urban radio talk radio station in Michigan. Now, if you have a great personality, a desire to learn and earn in radio sales, call Dody Johnson and call her at 248-278-0910. That's 248-278-0910. Okay, we were talking about the debate that was going on just a couple nights ago, and Jackie wants to weigh in. Jackie, you're on.
Good morning. I'm enjoying your program.
Thank you, Jackie.
One of my concerns has always been the voting tabulation. And I read a quote by this guy. His name is James Scott. He's supposed to be a senior fellow at the Institute for Critical Infrastructure Technology. And his quote is this: "A nation, state, or cyber mercenary won't hack e-voting machines one by one. This takes too long and will have minimal impact. Instead, they will take an easier approach, like spear phishing the manufacturer with malware and poison the voting machine update pre-election, and allow the manufacturers to update each individual machine with a self-deleting payload that will target the tabulated process."
Okay, you just spoke a lot of technical aspects, spear phishing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Break it down, or Tom might be able to break it down as to what it means. Go ahead, Jackie.
This is another quote. "Every conceivable layer of the election process is completely riddled with vulnerabilities. So yes, hacking elections is easy."
Well, one of those things, so to start off with the technical aspect of what you're talking about, election security, they have not done anything about it since the 2016 election. Some of the states have taken some action.
That's
but
because they think it's going to benefit the Republicans.
Well, and the federal level, though, they still haven't taken up an election security bill. The president said he would not get behind it. Mitch McConnell said he would not take it up. There's all this politics about that because there's a lot of...
Mitch, hanging in there for the people.
But here's the thing, and I believe it's, and I could be a little bit off on these numbers, but 15 states use purely electronic voting. So when you're talking about states being vulnerable to the stuff, Jackie, you were mentioning earlier, that's about 15 states. Thank God Michigan is not one of them. Yeah. We still have paper ballots. So in terms of hacking, right, and having the Russians hack our voting machines, could they mess it up? Possibly, but not that much because we still have the paper receipt and the paper backup that, you fill out yourself, so it'll be accurate as to whatever you filled out.
And you will point out, though, that the even that has a problem because of our own laws. According to Michigan law, if you have a recount, first of all, recounts are extremely expensive and time-consuming, both, which is probably why they're expensive. But the other part of it is, if any part of, like, you open up a box and there's, let's say, a few hundred ballots in that box, if there's any irregularities in the record keeping going into the box, it's deemed uncountable. And therefore, even if you find gross evidence of inaccuracy, you can't do anything about it, because under state law, it's automatically exempt from being counted at all.
They put them in each precinct in a metal box, a sealed box. If there's some problem with it, they don't count it.
Yeah, there's multiple seals, and if one of the several seals is broken,
they can't count the ballots that are in there.
Yeah.
And so then your digitally tabulated results take precedence over that, and so you're still stuck with it. So we have a better system than having a purely electronic system, but there's flaws still that really need to be cleaned up if we're going to be able to take advantage of that hard copy.
Exactly. That's like the second part that you're talking about. And what can we do? A lot of that work has to be at the state level and on, like, our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, to make sure that we have accurate backups, paper receipts, and to our legislators to change those laws that Scotty's talking about.
And I know that trying to get into the actual electoral system itself is probably a little bit is more challenging than what they just blatantly do. They are able to go ahead and advertise on, like, Facebook and the rest of it, and they put in disingenuous blogs, articles, and things like that in theory you're depending on Facebook to actually filter in terms of whether they think it's legitimate or not. And I think that's because we saw, like, during the last election, the Russians put out things about Black Lives Matters and stuff like that, depending on where they were actually trying to influence. And so if it was in a southern region or a conservative area, they would really, distort some of the issues of Black Lives Matters and things like that, trying to rile people up and to divide them. Don't forget, part of what both China likes capitalism, but both Russia and China, what they're trying to do is show you that democracy doesn't work and that there's chaos that's surrounding with it. And so if they, at some point, and this is what the Republicans don't get, at some point, they're going to go after them too, because a lot of what they do is represent, democracy, and eventually they will go after them as well. And I don't think the Republicans realize that. They got a short-term gain, they believe, because it's helping the Democrat, or it's going after the Democrats right now. But I think overall, their whole goal is to destroy democracy. It show it does not work. And say, the totalitarian system is the one that really works and gets things done.
Or as they call it, managed democracy.
Managed democracy, that's the new one.
Oh, and Jackie, the thing you were saying about spear phishing,
Okay, so explain what that is. Somebody explain it.
May I mention this as well? He also said that between the black box proprietary code, bare bones computers we call voting machines, and a mass of completely unqualified election officials, our election system is up for grabs to anyone with even a modest interest and some script kiddie capability. The cyberkinetic attack surface here is wide open. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Have a great summer.
About that is, I believe what she was referring to, or what the person she's quoting was referring to, is that China, for instance, has they make all kinds of electrical components. They make all kinds of computer chips, integrated circuits, and all this. And a lot of products
they assemble a lot of iPhone
stored in them that is not recognizable from the normal avenues of trying to approach and analyze what code is saved on the chip. That's in a particular manner where it's not findable, and you're dealing with things down at the molecular level, the storage of information. So it's not easy for people to find if they don't know it's there.
Well, yeah, it's in some of these hard-coded components, some of these ROM chips that are not normally, they're the firmware, what's called the firmware.
Right, and so that is something that can be well enough hidden that if it's going into voting machines and it's sophisticated enough, could do the kinds of things she's talking about.
Mm-hmm. And on top of the fact, like she was mentioning in the article about it being proprietary, well, if it's a closed-off secret, if it's my patent, I'm company X, and I'm not going to let anybody look inside and see what I'm doing, that means it's not open to
Which
audit.
means we shouldn't buy any hardware for running our election system that's made in other countries, which
happens to be, we're saying all that, and that's exactly what Trump is saying, right? I mean, think about that. Trump is sitting there indicating
twice a day.
And
yeah, exactly.
Now he's centered
twice a day.
Yeah, he is centered on them stealing commercial secrets, or taking things from companies. But this exact type of thing can happen with the election situation as well.
And while, I would push back on any script kiddie, using the term script kiddie, meaning somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, but they just go onto the dark web or whatever, they download a program that they just double-click a couple buttons and it does a hack. I don't think that we're as vulnerable to that as the article said.
Podesta was during 2016.
Yeah. Well, he was vulnerable to the spear phishing, like Scotty was saying. I think he gave his password something stupid. He clicked on a link he shouldn't have. So that's just bad.
Bad it's Hillary's campaign manager. That's how they got all the emails.
But that's also too where there's another vulnerability that Jackie alluded to in that quote. But I think it is worth talking about, which is voter rolls, right? One of the areas where, in Michigan, it's fortunately, since we changed our legislation, it's going to be harder for them to totally mess up our voter rolls. But our voter rolls are centrally stored at the Secretary of State's office, and they are vulnerable to attack. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson stepped up election security after she was elected to improve encryption, but it's a weakness. And in a lot of other states, too, we see that these rolls can be vulnerable. They did hack and they did delete people from voter rolls in Florida. That was proven during the Mueller investigation. So we know that it's something that can happen. But let me tell you, the hacking that we have to really worry about that damages voter rolls isn't from some computer in China or Russia. It's from these voter ID laws, and these voter suppression tactics that the Republicans are implementing that are preventing people with criminal convictions, people who are incarcerated or have been incarcerated.
Done that in Georgia and Florida quite a bit.
People who might not have fully up-to-date government IDs, they just relocated and they don't have multiple pieces of identification for their new addresses. All that kind of stuff that they're doing really helps to limit the pool of voters and ultimately helps the Republican Party.
Yeah, a lot of convicted felons I still run into when I'm out there petitioning don't know that they can sign petitions and vote.
Yeah, once they're off probation and everything, parole.
Yep.
And everything, that's true.
Yeah, they have to finish their
parole. Frank, you're on with the panel here?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Do you know what insanity is?
Yeah, they say when you keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result.
Thanks, Mr. Albert Einstein, for that quote.
For some reason, that happens every 2 to 4 years when elections come up. Now, the bottom line is there's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Oh, I think you're going to see a big difference this fall or in 2020.
I say that is because no matter who gets in public office, it's business as usual. You have different faces that come in, but it's the same thing. Changing the people is not the solution. Changing the system, that's the solution right there. If you want different results, change the system. And you will get different results. Other than that, it's going to be business as usual.
Frank, how do you change? What are you suggesting? How do you change the system? How?
Shut down all the loopholes that the politicians that they use to get by. For instance, the biggest thing is about the bids with the money. Okay, when the contract talks come up, it should be made public from start to finish who all the players is, that's sitting at the table. So cut down on the cronyism and the nepotism right there.
Which contracts are you
And
talking about?
it's made public from start to finish. When a candidate is running for a public office and they're making all these grandiose promises that they're going to do this and do that, okay, if you get elected to a position, and I know it's impossible to achieve 100%, so say we'll put it at 80%. If you don't hit 80% of the promises that you made to the public before you get elected, you're automatically expelled.
Frank, here's one of the issues, though. Let's say you run for governor, and you win, and you promise you're going to, like what Gretchen's going through right now, I'm going to fix the roads. Yeah. But you have the Republican legislature who says, we're not going to spend an additional dime to do this, or they have different ways of doing it that are going to hurt a lot of, hurt pension funds and things like that they're looking at it. How do you hold her responsible? She's coming out, she has the concept, she says, I want to do this, and then the Republican legislature says, guess what? It isn't going to pass. We aren't going to vote for this at all. Well, I mean, does that, how do you hold her accountable for that?
On top of that,
Come up with an audit. Come up with an audit not did by the state, but did by the federal government that comes in, have outsiders come in, and when you do the audits, don't let them know.
We do have those audits already. We do have those audits. We do have outsiders come in. They're called elections. Yeah. At the end of the day, if the person doesn't do it, no. I got to push back on you. I got to push back on this. It's the voters. If you're complaining that these politicians keep on getting elected, don't vote for them. Don't let your friends vote for them.
And the thing is,
that's the solution.
Let's say we had to make it a systemic change.
The people is not going to solve the problem. Change the system. I'm giving you solutions right here.
Okay, wait a minute. What system?
Maybe something wrong with the system needs to be changed. But if we apply the change you're suggesting, then we're back to where we were, because then we've got some manner of having to choose the people that are doing this.
That's
audit.
a managed democracy. That's Russia and China right there.
Same thing with that audit that the other elected officials would be doing otherwise. And so, for instance, if you have a bunch of Democrats and they're doing the audit of Gretchen Whitmer, for example, we just brought her up, they're going to say, well, that's because the Republican legislature won't cooperate. She's doing her best to keep her promise, so we give her a pass. On the other hand, if they were Republicans, they might say, well, that's no excuse. She's out of here. So you're back to the same thing.
Here's a solution right here. Don't have anybody in this country do the audit, have them done by the World Court.
Go for that, Scotty.
Our sovereignty, making ourselves a principality of a global government to be a step upward in improving the republic here in North America.
Frank, think about this. So it's the World Bank or someone like that. And the World Court would probably be different.
Not the World Bank, the World Court, not the World Bank.
Okay, the World Court. So you have auditors on there from China and from Russia. How favorable do you think they're going to be towards the United States and not try to make to dilute the report to make them look silly or bad? I mean, the system. You can't go to a totalitarian system that Russia and China has, and China's moving more towards that. Okay, I mean they're biting their tongue on Hong Kong and some of the other stuff right now that they really want to do.
They really want to chip on that.
The ox is small, but the earth is patient.
That's an answer for the city of Detroit.
I'm sorry, say that again.
To come in here and do the audit on the city of Detroit, but don't let them know when you're coming to do the audit. When you come to for the audit for the state, have the federal government do the audit for the state. No, but nonpartisan, so that way it won't be nothing tricky thrown in the game there. You gotta have
independent
affiliated there.
No, but you have Frank. You have independent private CPA firms that perform what they even call forensic audits. Okay, and they come in, and believe me, they are not necessarily friends of any administration. When I was in office, The last thing I wanted to see was, those auditors coming in, because you knew they were going to turn over every rock, every stone, and everything else in what they were doing. And a lot of times, you know what the problem is? The public doesn't pay attention to the reports that they publish and say, here's the issues that we're having that are problems. And there's supposed to be structural issues that are wrong and stuff. If they uncover corruption or something, that gets a lot of publicity, but there's structural problems with the way things are done. The public doesn't pay attention to it.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. The public cares more about the Kardashians than they do about what President Trump's doing.
Everyone has read the Mueller report, right?
Yeah, actually, my father just read it, too.
People who pay attention to the Kardashians, they have the IQ of a handkerchief.
But at the same time, if you're talking about the system, we got a good system. We got a good system out there. We got to make sure it works the way it's designed to.
Who's tuned in and know what's exactly going on. But these other bozos out here, you can't convince them because they're stupid.
Well, what you got to do, my man, it's your job in the system. You're part of the system, too. You got to go and convince those people, right? You got to be the one out there in your neighborhood.
And you can start in the local. You can start on your local government. Okay, if you're unhappy with what's going on in Detroit, you have a mayor and you have a city council.
And you have police commissioners as well.
And you get different boards like the police commission and stuff. But those are the people that are elected, and I'll guarantee you, a lot of people don't pay attention to those that are elected, okay, in the way that the system is set up.
And those are nonpartisan elections. You were bringing up earlier saying that, well, if it's nonpartisan, we're not going to have any problems. Well,
but like in the city of Detroit,
here too.
But Scotty, in the city of Detroit, people know who the Democrats are. I mean, it's rare, it's happened. You go to New York, and you've had Rudy Giuliani, and you've had Bloomberg that ran as Republicans that should have been New York City, that is supposed to be Democratic based, but they knew they were Republicans. But like in the city of Detroit, if you're a Republican running for mayor, the people know that, and you aren't going to get elected. I guarantee you that.
Okay, well, how's this for a novel idea? Kick both parties to the curb and start a new party.
People who have done that, doing it.
Doing it right now.
Scotty's trying to do that. Libertarian Party. New parties exist. The problem is that for us, we consider it a problem that people aren't voting for us. Yep. So the only reason that we don't have, well, there's a couple of reasons, but the big reason, the main reason that you don't hear more about there being more parties is because people aren't voting that way. The other reason is, of course, the people reporting the information are often omitting mention of more than two parties.
So
all I know is it's not working, and that's what I call it's insanity that comes up every 2 to 4 years. It's same thing, put different faces in there, but nothing changed, because changing the people is not the solution, changing the system. And there are ways to correct that, but quite naturally, the powers that be don't want to see that happen.
Frank, and I know you've been on for a while, but the one thing that it's not only the politicians, but like if you looked at the debate that was just happening this past week, the people that are asking the questions, what of those questions, which ones really touched about people that are living in Detroit? Mm-hmm. Okay, just which ones? What are their bread? What is their bread and butter every day? Mm-hmm. They're taking their kid to work. To school. They're going to work, and they're picking their kids up, and they're doing all their daily activity. That debate on Thursday, what did it touch? Mm-hmm. That every day, if I'm living in the city of Detroit, means anything to me.
Yeah. And Frank, thanks for calling in, because what you're doing right now is you are trying to institute that change. You say the system ain't working and it's got to be changed, but by calling in, you're doing it. So thank you very much.
The thing that concerns me the most is the questions not asked.
Yeah, and that's part of what when they set this up with CNN, ABC, and all the rest, even who was it, Monopolist, he's perceived as being a Democratic operative because he worked for Bill Clinton, during his first campaign. But
and in the administration too.
Yes, yeah. and they don't seem to actually ask the hard questions many times that if, let's face it, not great fans of Fox News, but Fox News might have asked them versus, what ABC asked them.
But, there's a lot of opportunity.
The situation that we're in is not going to be solved by politicians. You got to think outside the box.
I know, but it's the only system we have. Frank,
be solved by people.
Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. Have a great Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the rest of this hour a little bit, and we can talk about the debate and stuff, but one of the things that we should be conscious of is that at 10 o'clock the UAW is going to be meeting.
Yes.
And what might happen in regard to there's going to be a strike with General Motors. And just putting it out there, this has been an enormous challenge for the UAW because of the leadership and what's going on. Now, if people did something wrong, yes, they got to be held accountable. You got to wonder a little bit about the timing of suddenly they're releasing all these indictments right around the negotiation of what's going on. You question that, but it looks like there's some substance to what they've been going after and what they've been investigating and things like that. I just wonder about the timing sometimes of what's going on.
And make sure that people know exactly what's been going on in case you haven't heard any of the other news. So at 11:59 p.m. last night, the contract negotiation window for the UAW and GM expired. So right now, the question is, will the UAW strike, say that negotiations are broken down and they'll strike, or at 10 a.m., will the leadership decide, well, let's have a little bit more in the way of discussions? What's also important to note, what's not getting too much coverage, is that the janitors have already struck. And so
will they cross a picket line?
And that's
will the UAW cross a picket line when it goes up?
And also, anybody who's worked literally anywhere knows that janitors are, quite frankly, the lifeblood of any institution.
I was just going to say that we have UAW workers at WCCCD, and that would include the custodial staff.
Well,
I mean, that's a separate negotiation.
I think
custodial
because the people downtown, some of the ones I talked to, they're through a private contract.
Oh, maybe they're doing that too. But I do know that that when I look at, for instance, when we have the faculty organization days.
UAW is there.
Yeah, the UAW is in there along with the with our
union. But what the elephant in the room is that the FBI raided the house of the current president. They've had all sorts of and they also raided parts of the house, I believe, of the former president.
Yes,
they were counting $30,000 in the garage of the current president of cash, which is unusual, for that to be there, and it affects not only the contract negotiations, because one of the problems they have is that the young workers they're doing the same job. It takes them forever. They're considered temporary forever, so they don't get the full benefits. And I think part of what one of the negotiations is, we want everybody that's working, if they're doing the same job, they should get the same benefits and the same pay, which General Motors and the rest of them are pushing back on. I think also closing of the plants has become big, and one of the reasons why GM was targeted because of Lordstown, and they closed them, closed the plants.
Lordstown and
Hamtramck facility here, they're projected to close. And when you have that, first of all, they got all sorts of tax credits for it. I know because we were part of that for Hamtramck, that we were giving them the tax credits for Detroit Hamtramck, which really sits on the border of both. We were giving it to them, and yet now there's no real repayment of the tax credits. Okay, you used it, you're closing it, but part of it was because we wanted the jobs. That's why we gave you the tax credits for that to exist. Is there a clawback in any of that? Which raises the question, with the new Chrysler plant that's being built, if they happen to close it, is there any clawback on all the tax credits that are actually being given to them? And the UAW is trying to face it. But, the elephant in the room is you have these indictments that are sitting out there, and it bleeds over not only to the negotiations but to their political strength as well, which I'm sad to see, because I've always believed that their political presence has always made a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
And so for people who understand some of these indictments, what's been going on is that some of these senior leaders in the UAW have been accused of embezzling money from training programs. So during the last negotiations with some of these automakers, Chrysler, GM, etc., they have these training funds where the UAW is paid money in order to train its employees on how to
supposed to be
do
joint
jointologies as well as
the
leadership,
joint
all that
training.
kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
the places on Jefferson Avenue and stuff.
And so what these people have been accused of is taking a little bit off the top and funding vacation homes, trips,
Golf
new
clubs.
cars, golf, all that kind of stuff, and living the high life off of money that was meant to go to help make workers more skilled. Now, when you've got GM and all these other businesses running around saying we can't hire skilled workers, and you've got people who have been embezzling money that was meant to train and give workers new skills, it creates a real conflict of interest, especially amongst the union members who are saying, well, do I really trust these folks in the negotiation room to fairly represent me?
It's not easy. And the thing I am concerned about is that, their political strength. If you go to a Democratic convention in the state of Michigan, usually the UAW is able to, and there's nominations for AG, the Secretary of State and others. The Supreme Court are usually done through those political conventions. Mm-hmm. And if their position is much weaker, it's usually the candidates are very reflective of working people and things like that. And if it's weakened at that point, it's going to be interesting what candidates might start to surface.
Well,
for example, who do you put back on the board of MSU trustees after all this that has happened?
Well, I think too, and we got Commissioner Burton here wearing red, and if you're talking about a group that's really stepping up to fill in where the UAW used to be in the the Democratic Party, it's the MEA and the AFT. Right, the teachers are really starting to grow their voice.
The carpenters,
we saw that,
building trades
as well.
And that's because they're flourishing right now with all the activity going on in Detroit. Their dues are flushing in, and they makes them much more powerful. But I also don't forget we're a right to work state, and if the UAW really has a difficult time, that means probably their union dues or people participating might go down because they're frustrated by what they see and what's going on.
Oh, by the way, just kind of, I know it's a little tangential, but you had just mentioned the AG, and I wanted to bring up that back on Monday, I did hand Dana Nessel a complaint about the Board of Police Commissioners excluding people from meetings who didn't identify themselves in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
That deserves a lot more discussion.
Which, by the way, our Commissioner Burton here made a motion that they comply with the law, but as a body they voted against it.
Okay. You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. Dave, hold on. We're going to break. You're the first one up right after the break. Thank you.
This is Reverend Sharpton, and on the last Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton.
Oh, I just don't count the votes. They're not there with the vote. They just get
I just answered you before, sir, that I know thousands of people that are in the rooms when the votes come in. Every candidate has people in the room. When I've run, I have people in the room. Everybody running is going to have people in the room when the count comes in. The question is making sure we get the right count. The count does not come from them counting ballots. The count comes through technology. This is not 1890. We're not having people at the courthouse standing in line or the schoolhouse and you see the ballot. The question is making sure you have the right voting companies, that they're not hacked or not in any way eliminated. You could have everybody in the world in the room. They will be in the room getting the wrong numbers. So keep it real daily with me, Al Sharpton.
We all love fried food, but the problem is all that excess oil and fat can cause you to become overweight. Well, now there's the Cook Light Aero Fryer, an amazing kitchen miracle that uses air to fry instead of oil, so you can have the same delicious flavor and crispiness of deep frying using little or no oil. Get that deep fried taste and crispiness with up to 70% fewer calories. Enjoy crispy, delicious fries with little or no oil, guilt-free onion rings, cheesy and delicious mozzarella sticks. Call now and bring the Cook Light Aero Fryer into your home, including the Cook Light Aero Fryer recipe book, the unique patented dual tray, air frying mesh basket and tongs, and stainless steel extender ring. You'll get it all for 5 easy payments of $29.95. Be one of the first 500 callers and get this 13-piece knife set, a $175 value, yours free. Try Cook Light Aero Fryer for 30 days. If you don't love it, send it back. But keep the 13-piece knife set as our gift to you. Order in the next 10 minutes and we'll include free shipping. Call now or go online to air2fry.com. That's air2fry.com.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call
Since 2014, Addiction Hope and Helpline has answered calls for recovery and treatment 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're depressed, drinking, using drugs, or taking pills, call now and talk to someone who cares.
I had problems just getting to sleep, drinking and using pills every night.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Most insurance covers substance abuse. You can get back on track. Call now for hope and help with proven gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I have something to hold on to for strength. I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call 800-379-4799, 800-379-4799.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom. Over the years, we've helped thousands of families find senior care, and today's senior living communities have never been better, with amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
Call A Place for Mom right now to get our free ebook on financing senior care, as well as a free referral for senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-436-2907. That's 1-800-436-2907.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled, and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded, so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? If so, you may qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. The Fresh Start program is one of the biggest tax breaks the IRS has offered. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150 to see if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Their team of tax experts and attorneys will get you the best tax settlement possible. Call 800-685-6150 now to learn if you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program. Call Tax Group Center at 800-685-6150. 800-685-6150.
3, 2, 1.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community. The most powerful voices in the African American community are all right here on the new 910 AM Radio Superstation. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit, 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
And good morning. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. I'm here with Tom Choate, community activist, Police Commissioner Willie Burton. My name's Robert Ficano, and Scotty Boman with the Libertarian Party. So before we get into further discussion, I'd like to ask you, are you looking for a career in radio sales? 910 AM, the Superstation, is looking for energetic salespeople to sell the hottest urban talk radio station in Michigan. If you have a great personality, a desire to learn and earn in radio sales, call Dody Johnson and call her at 248-278-09110. That's 248-278-09110, and you can have a career here at 910 AM, the Superstation. Okay, we're talking just to finish up a little bit about the UAW and what's going on with it. They're meeting at 10 o'clock today, I believe, to decide what they're going to do with the strike. The president has told them to go ahead and to report to their jobs, I understand, for Sunday. But if it goes on strike, how do you think it's going to impact the Detroit area?
I mean, it could be, in the short term, I don't think we're going to see too much of an impact. GM has been doing a lot, along with Ford and Chrysler, to prepare for a rainy day. So I think that that's going to help the companies weather the storm for a little bit. But we're talking during the break that roughly 20% of all jobs in the state of Michigan are tied to the automotive industry, either the OEMs or the suppliers or suppliers to suppliers.
OEM is Ford, General Motors, or Chrysler.
Exactly. And so, you then talk about the small businesses that depend on those workers. If this drags out and if this expands beyond just General Motors into Ford or into Chrysler as well, we could, in the long term, if it's not resolved, see some really important and really big impacts in the Michigan economy.
Yeah, people don't realize, but they actually have the authority. If they want to strike one of the other companies, they can as well.
Can call a general strike.
Call a general strike, and all the companies will start to shut down, except that the UAW has always usually done what they call pattern bargaining for and they choose the biggest target they can for that session, and then they set up the contract and they ask the other two to comply with it, which they usually do, and the way they set it up.
And on that matter of other employers with UAW employees, I've got to make a self-correction here. I double-checked. The UAW represents clerical and administrative staff at the college, not custodial.
Okay, okay. I don't think looks like they're going on a strike or anything at this point. Do you think that the UAW, we just started to say this and talk about it, has as much political sway in the state? And are they going to pay attention? In the past, if the UAW endorsed you, you had a pretty strong ally in getting elected or reelected. Do you think that still holds today?
I would ask Secretary Clinton, who got the UAW's endorsement, but if you look at how the vote turned out amongst auto workers, I think you'd see a strong showing for President Trump, and the main issue was trade, that Donald Trump was talking about trade and saving jobs and bringing jobs back, and that's where the workers said, I don't care what my boss is telling me, I'm hearing it from this guy, so I'm going to vote for him.
Go ahead, Willie.
Yeah. It's just, when you look at candidates, that's running for office, it's, people do pay attention to how they connect. And it's the messages are lining up to their viewpoints and what's on their minds and their hearts. And I think when Tom just mentioned about trades, that was registering with a lot of people, especially in the auto industry.
And you were working with Working for America, which was a local, like an on-the-ground organization trying to organize around working people's concerns.
Exactly.
And that helped a lot in 2018, but that was 2 years too late.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Okay, switching around a little bit, Scotty, you wanted to bring up about vaping and flavors and stuff like that, and where we're going with all this.
Yeah. There's been new development in the war on flavor, or I also call it flavor fascism. Our Governor Gretchen Whitmer had previously put out an edict that was somehow an application of an administrative rule that gave her unilateral power to ban, it's supposed to be emergency powers in case of real emergencies, but she decided to use it to ban flavored vaping products. Not all of them.
I don't know, the legislature's given up quite a bit of power to the executive branch, both on the national and the local level. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so just the flavors, not anything that's harmful or addictive in addition to the flavors. And so she did this with the reasoning being that somehow she was keeping it from children, except it doesn't affect children because it's already illegal to sell to minors either way. So all it's doing is denying flavors to adults. And then now she has a new partner in the flavor war, and that's Donald Trump. So President Trump now is out there saying that he wants to do some kind of federal ban
Gretchen
on
and
flavors.
Trump in the same breath.
Yes. Donald Trump, Gretchen Whitmer are allies.
And the thing is that banning flavors somehow can be justified by keeping it away from youth, then you got to wonder, is your strawberry daiquiri mix going to be next?
Well, first of all, probably what her logic is, you got to start someplace in terms of it. And what's more attractive to youngsters, if it's plain tobacco, okay. I mean, the youngsters do illegal things, okay? They drink, a lot of them drink illegally and things like that.
Though far fewer now, we're actually seeing that those rates of drinking and actually teenage sex are actually going down, but we are seeing vaping go up.
And right. And so if they're going to do something, what makes it attractive is the flavors, okay? I mean, let's face it. Of course it's attractive to have different flavors. I mean, look at what they've done with alcohol. Everything, vodka, everything has all sorts of different flavors now. It used to be just straight vodka, right? But now how do they make it attractive? They put all these different flavors in it to try to increase their sales. And with young people, you know that some of them are going to try something that's not going to be legal in terms of their age and things like that. But probably the flavor, because it's closer to candy and stuff like that, and the way that it tastes, and when you're vaping, it becomes attractive to them.
And we've seen that with tobacco products, with cigarettes too. They instituted that about, I would say 10 years ago. They had a war on flavored cigarettes and menthols and things like that.
Well, I remember drinking Tickled Pink because it tasted better than beer. But so are they going to go after that? You know, that's I guess what my point is. But can't adults also like things that have sweet taste?
Yeah, of course they can. But part of it, and it's the argument is I can put in my body what I want because I'm an adult. Does that carry over into, okay, I'm encouraging you to, with these different flavors to smoke. That means if you don't have insurance, guess what? Guess who's picking up the costs once you contact with cancer and everything else? It's all the taxpayers that's going to pick it up. Same argument we heard with seatbelts. Remember, everybody says, hey, if I want to drive without a seatbelt and I get in an accident, so what? I mean, it's my life that's going to be impacted. Well, not really, because when you go to the emergency room, okay, because you didn't have the seatbelt on, and it impacts, the cost of health care and things like that, it does have an overall impact.
But flavor doesn't cause cancer.
Well, next they're going to be talking about...
But it encourages you to smoke. I mean, that's what it does.
Next they're going to be talking about what's in my cup, coffee. We need to...
Well, they already talk about that.
Need to get rid of the sugar, need to get rid of the cream, and, But anyway...
They already talk about that and say half that stuff's bad for you.
And you brought up, the matter of teenage sex going down, but but what about flavored condoms?
Okay. All right.
Those are the bad.
We're going kind of far afield here.
Let's go back to fixing the roads.
Yeah. The question is, and I'll say this, and I know she focused on that, which is fine for a sidelight and it got national attention. What are we doing for Detroit? Okay, what are we doing about the poverty? What are we doing about issues that real Detroiters are talking about and are affecting their lives? That's one of the problems, is that we get off on these tangents, and I understand, okay, that can be a sidelight, that if you have that executive power, if you do it or not do it, and it creates some constitutional issues with people like Scotty. But at the same time, I think we all are in agreement that there is a need for purpose to help people in the city of Detroit, to help people with roads and things like that.
Well,
that
to keep
it seems to just spin and nothing occurs.
Yeah. One of the things that I did when I first got in office, when I got elected in 2013, I think it was 2014 is when we started having the conversations more about poverty. And Bob, you're absolutely right, because you actually, gave me some pointers, about things that I can do in the district. But one of the things was about how can we create more jobs in the city of Detroit and things of that nature. So I didn't know, how to go here, go there, and get in contact with people. But talking to Bob, whatever, Bob was like, you got groups already here, like SBA. Tap into SBA and what they're doing and try and have them to do conversations and discussions and stuff in the district, as far as bringing people together, as far as those entrepreneurs that may not have
access to the same resources. And this is exactly the model, like Willie, that you're talking about, that the governor and other elected officials could do. But we're also seeing that these programs might shut down if they can't get a budget done. That we don't even have an idea. That
everybody's walking away
budget.
from everything.
Yeah.
And it affects things like the education. I know, for example, just because my daughter's a teacher, that they've put any kind of step increase and stuff, everything's on hold because they're waiting to see what the budget's going to do for education. Here, let's get to Jim. Jim, you're on with the panel here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know where to start. I mean, you have so many things going on, so many topics.
Just jump in. Just jump in, Jim. Go ahead.
I know, because I'm such a libertarian, I can't handle all this, you know, what we're going to do about this and what we're going to do about that and flavor this and flavor that. My goodness gracious.
Well, talk about Hong Kong, tearing down facial recognition towers.
Hey, tearing down facial recognition towers here in Detroit.
Go ahead, Jim. What's on your mind here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, even with the flavored things, you know, now the government's going to get involved and ban this and ban that. And, you know, just caveat emptor, you know?
Shut it down.
Hey, yeah, exactly.
Okay, Jim, you say caveat emptor, which is a legal term that says buyer beware, basically is what it is. And meaning that if you want to buy tobacco-flavored, you can put it into your body. But, you know, that the problem with some of that argument is that, were you against seatbelts, mandatory seatbelt usage when it first came out?
Or motorcycle helmets.
Or motorcycle helmets.
I am. I'm against that. It's up to you. Take your chances. It's like anything.
Okay,
right?
Jim, if you get in an accident, okay, and you're not wearing a seatbelt and you go through the windshield, but you're still alive, and they bring you to the ER room, and you got to go through all the expense of what's going to happen, and you can't pay for it. Who pays for it?
Well, it's like anything else. You got a bad diet. Down in the city, down in some urban areas, a lot of the people are very overweight. They're sickly. They always have to go to the emergency room. Who pays for that?
Yeah, right. And that's why you see that all the health care, but no, let's face it, you see a lot more healthy, not only ads on TV and things like that, but mandates of what doctors are supposed to do when they're supposed to talk to you and things like that, right? I was just reading about the opioids and how that got developed. They because pain they thought was under treated in the United States, they actually mandated all the doctors had to ask you about pain and what pain you had in your with every visit that you were doing attending the doctor. That was some kind of mandate that they had in there. And eventually, people, well, they had pain, and how do you treat it? Well, you know, they were giving them the painkillers to do it, which obviously spun out of control.
Yeah, who's the common denominator there? Who mandated it? I didn't mandate it.
No, but
You just mentioned somebody mandated. Who mandated it?
Okay. If you really want to know how that came about, is because of Jack Kevorkian. Well, and you say, how does he have anything to do with this, right?
Yeah.
People were doing assisted suicide because they couldn't deal with the pain that was going on in their lives. The medical profession, everybody came together and said, you know what? You don't have to go to assisted suicide. Here's pain clinics and stuff like that to deal with it. And like everything else, it just overexpanded.
I know, but there's the problem. Now the government got involved, and now we have an epidemic of opioids. And now
I think what you saw in that was that capitalism got involved, and they said, sure, we can make a lot of money off this.
And to be fair, it's also
both. It has nothing to do with capitalism. Capitalism doesn't work like that.
What?
Scotty.
Yeah, what I was just going to get into, and I think Tom had a good point here, is he said a little both. And what we have here is what I call crapitalism, which is often misrepresented by people who want more government or more socialism as being capitalism, and that is the marriage, if you will, between special interest businesses and government in a manner where where the free market would otherwise exist. Instead, you have private businesses, but they're not really functioning in a free market. They're working in cahoots with the government officials.
Jim, you say you want to run government more like a business, right? And you want them out of your lives and stuff like that. Flint Water, okay? That you had a person running government like a business, and you saw what you got. You got Flint Water, right? Because he was just looking at the numbers. He says, numbers are telling me this. A politician said, guess what? I see that these engines are being corroded that General Motors is making. I don't care what the numbers tell me. There's something wrong with this water. And yet, looking at the water, no, we're running like a business. We're running like a business. Okay.
Well, hold on. Wait a minute. That's not run like a business because the government's involved in it. I mean,
in the Flint water thing, you had a politician that came from the business community and said, I can run the government like a business and make those kind of decisions. And you saw what you got. You got Flint water crisis.
Well, but that's the thing is running government like a business doesn't make government a business, because the difference is in one case you have oversight, that the government playing the role of oversight when there's businesses working within a marketplace where they can compete with each other and offer a product versus the overseer itself being the business. And that's what we end up having.
Oversight works in a lot of instances. If you've worked ever in a factory or something like that, the oversight for safety and things like that is mandated by the government. The company isn't necessarily doing it out of the benevolence of their heart, okay? It's that you have MIOSHA inspectors and people like that come around and say, now, do they get too picky about it and stuff like that? We always debate that, and that's fine. But overall, they're saying you got to run a safe facility is really more government mandated, because we've seen when corporations in the private sector just simply goes wild, that, making the profit becomes the ultimate thing, which they're supposed to do.
Nowadays,
but they overextend.
And nowadays it's more government mandated. But earlier, when we had a larger unionized workforce, it's also those labor agreements and those contracts mandated certain safety and certain workplace accommodations too, where that was negotiated between the employer and the union. So as we weaken the unions, we've also weakened some of those workplace safety guidelines.
Well, and I think the contract process is a more appropriate place for it to happen, because those directly involved are the ones that would be in the decision-making.
Yeah, but you got problems like, you have down in Tennessee where they're always fighting that the union shouldn't be in there. And so should they have different standards about the workplace versus, plants that are up here? I mean, at some point you need the uniformity of safety in all these plants, one way or another.
Yeah, but uniformity, it can be, one condition can be different than another. We have a facility that's kind of a health facility, and they tell you that you have to have these ADA to be compliant. Everybody has to comply by the same thing, no matter what your business is. So our business is, people, we never have a wheelchair. And I'm not trying to be a bad person here, but sometimes when you're a small upstart, you don't have the additional money.
You're absolutely right.
To comply with this. Whereas when you're more established, you want to attract a broader audience. You include these things. That's how business works. But when the government comes in, it mandates. It's a blanket approach.
Yeah, but
it's
just
like in the auto industry. It's like
how about like the health field? Okay, Jim, it was the government that said to DMC, you got to have clean instruments when you're doing the surgery. They're the ones doing the inspections. They're the ones that are saying this has to happen, because it sounded like if it was left to the company that they were skirting on the line here, but it was the government. And, somebody reported to the government, they came in and said, oh, no, you got to, the way you got to package the clean instruments and things like that, it wasn't being done.
Yeah, but that's when the market forces come in, and then all of a sudden, there's always going to be a problem at the beginning. The problem gets addressed by when the market starts to do its work and says, you know what, nobody's going to go there anymore, your reputation's damaged. So what happens is, a lot of times these government agencies come in and buffer those companies that do these bad practices.
Okay, Jim, we got to go to break. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Some interesting comments. Okay. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation.
Look at here. Let me keep it 100 and let me tell you how you hold me down is something I genuinely value. I got a clearer view and being at you always had for me.
So you've decided to go to college. That's cool. So pop quiz. Which is a better way to earn your degree? Commute to college and fill your gas tank, get stuck in traffic, drive in bad weather, try to find a parking space, walk a half mile to class, or learn online at Independence University. In the park, on a bench, on the beach, on a towel, or on your couch with your kid. Your campus is wherever you want it to be. You don't go to college. College goes to you. That's independence. That's Independence University. You schedule classes around your schedule and all your supplies, including a brand new laptop and tablet, are included with tuition. At Independence U, you'll learn from professional instructors with real work experience. You'll get personal support in school and employment assistance when you graduate. Get your degree, but keep your life. That's Independence. That's Independence University. So if you're really smart, you call now.
Call 1-800-556-7791.
Independence U for an independent you.
Call 1-800-556-7791.
Are you getting the most out of your Medicare plan? Are you sure? Many people with Medicare are eligible for plans that include extra benefits in addition to those found in original Medicare. Benefits like dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free with no obligation to enroll. In addition to hospital and medical coverage, at no extra cost, you could also get coverage for prescription drugs, dental, hearing, vision, and more. In many areas, plans with benefits are available with $0 copays for many services, $0 monthly premiums, or $0 deductibles. That's hospital, medical, prescription drug, dental coverage, and more included in one plan with premiums that may be as low as $0 a month. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free and there's no obligation to enroll.
Call 1-800-571-8580. That's 1-800-571-8580.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Since 2014, Addiction Hope and Helpline has answered calls for recovery and treatment 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're depressed, drinking, using drugs, or taking pills, call now and talk to someone who cares.
I had problems just getting to sleep, drinking and using pills every night.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Most insurance covers substance abuse. You can get back on track. Call now for hope and help with proven general recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I have something to hold on to for strength. I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call 800-379-4799, 800-379-4799.
This is why you work so hard to pay the mortgage. Because home is more than four walls and a roof. It's that porch swing on a summer night. It's pajamas with feet and everybody over for Sunday dinner. And that old stuffed chair in the living room you just can't get rid of. This is why you work a second job. This is why you learn to fix things yourself, so you could save on repairs. Because home is your place, your memories, your family sleeping in their own beds at night. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. And now even more options are available. Call 888-995-HOPE today. That's 888-995-HOPE. Or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov.
Good night, Mama.
This is why. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up. Until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Good morning. You listen to 910 AM, the Superstation. My name is Robert Ficano. You are listening to us here live, and I'm here with Scotty Boman, our residential Libertarian.
Hello.
Police Commissioner Willie Burton, and Tom Choate, our community activist that's here. Switching around a little bit, we're into the last half hour, and of course we bring up any topics we want. Today's a freewheeling day, but one of the things that keeps repeating itself, it seems like, within the Detroit community is facial recognition and what the police are doing or not doing about it. And is it still something that's very active? Is it green light? Is that a facial recognition situation? I keep hearing that the police commission is going to vote on it week after week, but then it doesn't seem to vote on it one way or another. And now I understand the city council has its own umbrella of what they're looking at in terms of
surveillance,
which they include under the umbrella of facial recognition. So anybody want to bring us up to date on where we actually are on this?
Yeah, I'll let Commissioner get in here.
So where we are right now is that each week the citizens of Detroit has been coming out to the Board of Police Commission expressing their concerns about the harm and the dangers of facial recognition. And the question is who's really listening? You know, you have 3 commissioners on the board, which is myself representing District 5. Then you got Commissioner Bill Davis out of District 7 and Commissioner Darrell Brown out of District 1. We hear the community loud and clear when they come to the Board of Police Commissioners and say, hey, we don't want it. Here's the reasons why. Not only that, at this previous board meeting, we just had a gentleman that came from Stanford University and talked about how he has similar, developments or something similar to facial recognition, that prototypes that he developed on his own. And he talks about how it's not ready for use or ready for the department to launch. And
remember, this is Stanford University right outside San Francisco, which banned facial recognition technology.
But when the public is getting shut down during public comments, it makes you wonder who's on that board really listening to the people. So I echo the voices of Detroiters. When they say shut it down, I hear you.
Well, is there a limit on how many on the amount of time that you can actually give during public comment?
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a Senate bill right now. I want to say is 04.
And it's Senate Bill 342 and House Bill 4810. But by its 2 minutes limit speaking time at the board.
Yeah, but they trying to raise it to 3 minutes now.
Yeah,
the new Senate bill.
But what we had here was a commissioner making a motion to adjourn in the middle of public comments. It wasn't about any established time limits. Those people were already scheduled to come up and speak.
So they were in line. Normally they
and what happened was, and we had Commissioner Bell kept trying to play dictator on the commission, acting like he was chair when he really has no more authority than Commissioner Burton here. He simply represents, my district, unfortunately. But
that's what you really think, Scott.
So he's sitting there interrupting Commissioner Burton early on when he's trying to ask some questions of the personnel director, going, that's out of order, that's out of order, like not letting Burton ask questions that other commissioners were able to go ahead and ask their questions.
Yeah.
And then, so it's become an ad hominem kind of, obstruction of everything Burton does. And then we have this situation with, later on in public comments, where this woman wanted to wanted to ask the assistant chief a question, and the assistant chief said he would answer it when she got done, but she wanted to make sure her time got counted. The Commissioner Burton's like, well, hold on, make sure she gets her 2 minutes. And so she got all her time, and then she's like, okay, well, I want to hear Bedison's comment, and Lisa Carter's like, no, you're not going to get to do that.
Well, and for background too, this is the Fest
Griffey,
Thursday.
wants to, ends up making a motion to adjourn, and they cut it off.
So it sounds like there's a little bit of chaos going on.
Yeah, this is this past Thursday at a Board of Police Commissioners public community meeting held at Kemeny Rec Center off of 4th Street, Southwest Detroit.
Another thing that, that brings, I want to bring this up as attention is that, you have a lot of community observers that are actually sitting in the audience at these meetings, and they listening to their commissioner as they when they talk about facial recognition, and then when you hear motions get put out there to shut the system down and all operating components of it until it comes out of committee, and then you look up and you look at the various districts, whether it's District 4 or District 6, which is Bell and Lisa Carter, they are the ones that, that really not listening to the audience. And they turn around and they vote down on a good motion. So right now, Detroit Police Department is operating out of compliance on facial recognition.
So when you say out of compliance, what do you mean, Willie? What are they doing?
Because number one is they secure funding, implemented a program, used it for nearly 2 years. Right now, the policy that they have in place have not been voted on by the Board of Police Commissioners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
Has the city council voted on it?
The city council hasn't regulated it. They approved the RFP.
And we have not approved the policy.
Mm-hmm.
And the charter does give the Board of Police Commissioner approval powers over policies and over the budget in consultation with other parts of the government.
This boils down straight to transparency. How can we be representing the community when we allow the department to implement its program, secure funding, without notifying the public? The public have not been weighed in properly on this issue. In addition, we have not had a single expert to come in and just gave a whole presentation on this. I mean, we have been successful to have people coming down doing public comment, weighing in their 2 minutes, their concerns about the harm of this technology. We just saw what happened in South Wales over in the UK. There's a 92% misidentification rate. Do we want to see that here in the city of Detroit, the blackest and poorest city in America? Where people that living in abject poverty is starting to become criminalized with this dangerous technology. So the police department has a policy. It's been revised. It's going back and forth from the personnel's the policy director, and also in the hands of the policy subcommittee. But guess what? When do those committees meet? Are the public, can they sit in on those meetings? Are they included in the decision making? Should we be voting on the policy at all when, they didn't go by it the proper way?
It seems like in a lot of public debate sometimes, the longer you delay it out, if this gets dragged out over weeks and then, into some months, at that point, their energy runs out. Okay, they got other stuff that they're doing in their life.
That's what they're trying to do.
And I think they're trying to do. That's what happens with it. Okay, we happen to have William Davis, that is police commissioner
from District 7, and also
the
Detroit chapter, the president of NAN, National Action Network. Commissioner Davis, welcome to the line.
Hello, Commissioner.
Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How you doing?
You want to chime in on this?
Oh, most definitely. I am opposed from the very beginning of the facial recognition policy and implementation. Facial recognition is not good for the city of Detroit. It's not good for communities of color. It's not good for black and brown women. It's just not good on so many levels. I think this is a complete waste of our resources.
Now, how did this get implemented without any formal, really, vote or address by? Technically, maybe the city council could have done it, but it hasn't occurred on either the council or the police commission. How do you implement this without any actual policy directive to do it or vote on it?
This sounds like a dictatorship. This is nothing different from what Donald Trump is doing in the White House.
Well, some things get implemented as they do a test, do a pilot, or do a study. They start a whole process that ultimately should be reviewed and approved. But, they try to get the skirts right up under the line.
Does this tie in the green light? Does green light have facial recognition? It must in order to go after suspects.
Green light does not have facial recognition.
So how do they go after the suspects?
Green light data falls into facial recognition. They can take still images from green light feeds, feed them into the facial recognition,
along with the traffic-mounted cameras that you see up and down.
So it's just a matter of whether they want to route it into the facial recognition or not.
When they purchased those systems, they bought them from a company that promoted the product as facial recognition ready.
And then you look at,
And
then you look at,
slippery slope. You don't want to go down. You
then,
don't want to go down.
then you look at DataWorks. DataWorks Plus. There's a whole lot of scrutiny with that vendor.
Yeah, and their tie-ins with Amazon as well, who ultimately they run the recognition software, the backbone of this system, and a lot of other facial recognition systems, too.
Well, I appreciate you, Commissioner William Davis, out of District 7, for being on the battlefield, fighting on the behalf for the people, standing with the people in solidarity. But more importantly, if we can't get it done come Thursday on the Board of Police Commissioners, then we got to get it done with H.R. Bill 4810 and also Senate Bill
342. And that's also, too, just to build off that, just make sure everyone knows it's clear that the chairwoman, Lisa Carter, of the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners, said at Thursday's public meeting,
This past Thursday,
that this upcoming Thursday, that'd be September 19th at 3 p.m. at Detroit Board of Police, Police Public Safety Headquarters in Detroit, they are going to vote on this policy.
She have not been consistent one bit. First, she comes out and she said, "Well, I agree with Commissioner Burton. Chief Craig, you didn't get our permission, therefore we shouldn't be using facial recognition." Then she comes out in George Hunter's article in the Detroit News just within a few weeks, stating that she supports the chief, far as using facial recognition. We are confused.
And that's after 7/11, when Commissioner Burton was removed, to put it nicely, assaulted at that meeting. Lisa Carter was like, "Well, actually, I agree with him on the issue. It wasn't about that at all." And so she was saying then that she was agreeing with Willie Burton's position on the matter, and obviously she's backtracking.
Commissioner Davis, do you believe that the vote's going to happen this Thursday?
I believe the vote is going to happen, and I believe it's going to pass. I believe we need to have as many people from the public come out and voice strong opposition to that. And they should have an opportunity to do public comment on that issue before there's a vote.
Amen.
I believe that should happen.
Amen.
And if we have a lot of people to do that, that might scare them from doing this reckless action.
Hey, Commissioner, one quick thing I just want to ask you real quick, and this is also to Commissioner Burton as well. So when do you guys receive the agenda for the meeting? Just because I want to make sure that when the public agenda comes out, that it actually shows and reflects public comment before any votes. So, when will you know that, in other words, that public comment will happen before the vote?
Well, generally, we get the copy of the agenda Tuesday afternoon before the Thursday meeting. Well, that's when I get it. I don't know if someone else
electronically send it. They electronically send it to all the commissioners. Okay.
Yes.
But when they send out the Tuesday package on Tuesday, that does not give us enough time for preparation for a Thursday board meeting. When we vote on matters that's very important, we need to have this a week out. So we can be able to, to raise questions, whether we have to contact the city of Detroit's law department or some other department. But the thing about it is, or even have more input, with constituents in our districts. These are very important matters. I mean, right now we just saw something where now public comments, cards are being cut off right during the chief's report. Well, the chief is the first one up to speak, to give a report. We should be able to take public comments up until it's time for public comments. All of this is to suppress the people from coming in to the board meeting, expressing their concerns. It's preventing people from coming to these meetings. But the good thing about it is a movement in Detroit saying we don't want it.
Okay. Commissioner Davis, I appreciate you calling in and listening to the show. And we have a number of callers, so we're going to get to them. Thanks for calling in today.
My pleasure.
Thanks. Okay, next up, we have Nathan. Nathan, you're on with the panel.
Good morning to you and your guests.
Good morning.
Good morning.
the question the chief haven't been asked about the face recognition. He keeps saying how he not going to use it and how he going to use it. The question you should ask him, how did you use it before we knew you had it? How did you use it then?
Where's the data?
Yeah.
Where's the data?
I guess
Commissioner Burton's been asking that.
It records the data and permanently keeps it, from what I understand.
Well, but we don't know how.
deleted.
We don't know
But
how
you can
permanent.
still retrieve, but it's much more expensive to retrieve.
How many errors was conducted on since they've been using it for the past 2 years that the public or the commissioners didn't know that they were using it in the get-go? So that's those are some questions we like to know.
And Commissioner Burton's raised those questions to the chief, and the chief has demurred, to be nice about it. I mean, flat out, he's ignored those requests, never provided the data, said, oh, we'll get back to you, never provided it.
You know, I heard an interesting conversation yesterday morning about the corruption in the union. And I heard somebody say, well, you know, they didn't have that kind of corruption years ago. But you forget, Jimmy Hoffa disappeared in 1975. That was 40 years ago. He disappeared because he was teaching Sunday school.
Hey, well, thank you for calling. We got to go to the next caller.
Nathan, we appreciate it.
Talk about Hoffa another day.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be why he would disappear.
Maybe
No,
they have facial recognition.
Greg, you're on with the panel.
Hey, you guys, the Electronic Mr. Positive. Let me get this straight. You see it on channel 2, 4, and 7. They have videos of the perps. Are you saying, and this is what you're sending the message out, that Detroit does not want to get the crimes solved, and they don't want to get the perpetrators off the street?
Oh, Mr.
No, Greg, that's not what. No, that's not what they're saying. If there is a crime that was committed, you can use the technology to help to investigate the crime. The question you get is what happens once, just a general broad, we're just looking at everybody's faces and we're just plugging it in. Then at that point, when it's misidentified, at that point, do they take action? Does the city or the state take action on you? And at that point, do you have the resources to say, wait a minute, I'm not the guy who did it? And, it gets into the slippery slope. The question is, it's not a question whether once a crime has been committed, they can use the technology to try to resolve it and match it up and see who it is. The problem is it just broadly identifying everybody? And if you may be doing something at a protest that they don't like, and people who are protesting, certain policies, whether it be the city, the state, or something like that, can I start to affect that and go after you?
And that was actually used in the city of Baltimore.
So to the caller, we just saw 26 lawmakers in the state of California who just recently misidentified and identified as being criminals. So should we be using this technology here
until it's perfected?
Until it's perfected. It has not been properly tested in the black and brown communities. This subjects to communities or people of color that's filling up the prisons. What it does is criminalizes those that live in poverty. We as a city cannot afford to have a single person to be misidentified. Right now, we have not heard from experts from the other side. DPD is the only one saying we should use this, and really, it comes out we should be the last city to be using this technology. Where's the data on Project Greenlight? We see crime is up in Greetown Casino area. It's heavily surveilled. It's a green light corridor. Cops on every, the chief say cops on dot. So that's basically cops pretty much on every corner throughout the Greetown area. But shooting and crime is up. Not long ago, it was a triple shooting in Greetown. Yep. The police can't stop that. But I do want to quote a quote by former AC Dolan, Deputy Chief Dolan, who's retired from the police department. He says that the police cannot police stupidity. And I say that, and I bring up his quote because shooting is up. It's up in the Greetown area.
I think trying to do something.
And what the citizens want, they want to see police presence. They want to see police response times improve. They want to see good old-fashioned police work where officers investigate a crime from start to finish.
They want to see when they pick up the phone and dial 911, they're not put on hold. They want to see these things improve. They want to see officers' compensation improve.
Yeah.
They want to see our retirees who lost everything during a bankruptcy. They want to see them become whole again, or those benefits to be restored. There's a lot of issues that we need to be focused on. Facial recognition. We shouldn't be having this conversation as far as moving to a policy or moving, towards pushing this through. If anything, we should ban facial recognition because it haven't been properly tested. We saw what's going on in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, 1.2 million protesters hit the streets to tear down a facial recognition tower. They say, hey, you are not going to surveil us.
China does it a whole different way,
Yeah,
a whole new level that they do it.
Just to respond to that main accusation there, it's not a matter of not going after the bad guy. It's a matter of getting the right bad guy and not mislabeling innocent people as the bad guy. And what we have here is a case where the system is not reliable even after the crime is committed to matching up the right person. So you end up pulling people into the dragnet that aren't really,
had anything to do with it.
Had any connection with it other than the system recognizes facial similarity.
Well, Scotty, it makes my job more complicated and hard. And here's how. It's because when the Detroit Police Department is using this technology, have not properly notified the community, how do I supposed to tell the community that I have trust for the police department when the police department didn't have enough trust in the community as far as notifying them, saying, hey, we're going to have this discussion on facial recognition. This is the direction that the department wants to go in, but we want to hear from you first. The department have not done that. If they would have done that, then we probably won't be having this conversation today.
Okay. Let's we got callers lining up on this. Let's see if we James, you're on with the panel.
And also to all the hosts that are there this morning. We are looking at the crisis of democracy in the sense of the shaping of its conscience. We're looking at the point where the question mark will be weighted on all those who hold the offices of facilitating the level of democracy that must reflect their stakeholders who voted them in. And so the Almighty, who gives inalienable rights to its citizenry, will weigh in and say, I condemn any form of those who misrepresent the very conscience of weighting value to say if technology or any form of governance impede the rights of its citizenry, that democracy must be condemned. And the people itself will stand up and say, no more will we allow this to be done. This was amplified and showed at the city charter when those citizens who were disabled in ADA said no more. And we're saying that with them. We will stand until democracy reflects the purity of conscience that says the citizen must have the right for which it is taxed and levied.
Jim, that's a basic premise of democracy, but part of democracy is you got to get out and you got to vote and you got to advocate and you got to change people that are in there that you don't want.
Yeah, but the vote will come, Bob, when we have a people of leaders and others who will allow the true bell of freedom and justice to ring. That's when you will see the galvanizing of the people to say, we will stand with this. We saw it in the civil rights movement when the clerical voices went forth and said no more. We will not allow our conscience to be sheared and stay within the confines of that which is said that it has the right to monopolize any level of the democracy system. So we, the citizens, must stand up for our own rights and our own equity, and that is what's happening now.
Thank you, James. We appreciate it. Have a great Sunday.
James, I appreciate you. I remember meeting you over at Red Door Digital, and you are absolutely right, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Solidarity.
Thanks, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, Reggie, you're on here. We're closing in on the hour. Reggie?
What?
Go ahead, Reggie.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Look, the priorities of the police chief and the mayor are wrong. Facial recognition is not the priority. The priority is this vicious dog situation where the dogs are eating up Detroit citizens. Now, the animal control should be under the auspices of the Detroit Police Department, not the Health Department. Okay? And so, again, to put facial recognition ahead of this vicious dog crisis in Detroit, clearly the mayor, the council, and the police chief, they don't know what they're doing.
Well, Reggie, I think you can multitask. I mean, you can go after both issues.
And the dog issue
point.
is also really tied into poverty and this larger discussion we have to have about how do we solve poverty.
Yep. But he does have a point in that apparently the health department is not prepared to have professionals, in other words, animal control specialists, available 24/7, which they do need to have.
James, thank you. We got to go to the next caller, but we appreciate you. You know what? The whole poverty piece, animal control piece, banning facial recognition. Hey, Detroiters, we hear you. Cross Southfield Michigan, we hear you. We on a Robert Ficano with 50,000 watts this morning.
Well, we got a couple more. We got a couple more callers. Leroy, before the end of the hour. Go ahead.
Got 1 minute. 1 minute.
Leroy, what's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. You know, I'm listening to you guys, and when I'm out, it's a throwback to we don't need computers in schools. We don't need robots in the workplace. We don't need self-serve cashiers. Okay, people fought it, but then the thing of it is, when them robots came, they had to go. The people had to go.
What we need is good. What we need is good old-fashioned police work. When police come, we want them to respond in our communities. We want to see them on patrol. We want to see them investigate crimes from start to finish. But what we don't need is a single person to be misidentified through this what we call techno-racism, which is facial recognition.
Charles?
Let me just say one thing.
What he said.
I was falsely arrested, and so I told my lawyer, I said, they told me they had cameras on. When my lawyer went and asked for the cameras, okay, they said that the cameras was off. Y'all, man, look, I'm telling you one thing. Get the facial recognition. You sit your ignorant butt somewhere and sit down.
Okay, thanks, Charles. We appreciate it. You have a good Sunday. Next up, we have Marcia. Marcia? Oh, Charles. Charles, I apologize. Charles?
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Charles, this is me.
Yes, go ahead, Charles. Quick, we're getting near the end of the hour. Go ahead.
Yes, I got to go to work at 10 o'clock. I'm on break. The democracy vote, we voted no against the emergency manager. They flipped us off and threw the emergency manager in here anyway. What's up with that democracy? Now, as far as the facial recognition, we cannot fall for the okie doke. We got to make sure this facial recognition is right. Get our HBCU to get down the psychological advancement of it and make sure it's accurate, because we can flip that to the KKK, the skinheads, and all of that. See, they want to place okie doke and make us feel scared. But it's time to get down to technology. We were playing peekaboo with our babies all lifelong. Our mama playing peekaboo with us, and now we scared. Now we want to run in the closet because somebody see us. No. Get down with the scientific advancement of this facial recognition, and we're going to bring the KKK, skinheads, and all of them to jail. That's
okay, all right, Charles. We appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, Marcia.
Hood recognition.
No, Marcia, you're the last caller. Go ahead, Marcia.
Listen, you know the technology is coming because it is a part of the military-industrial complex. And I want to talk about the dogs. The dogs, unlike African-American, we do not have an interest group. But the dogs have $1 billion interest group. We have got to get the money that these politicians get from these different agencies, because they have, they got dog businesses where they got choke chains for $1 million diamond choke chains around the neck. I was attacked by 2 pit bulls. And the family I could get no money, nothing, no compensation, because the family didn't own the house. They did not have insurance
company,
or anything.
It's all about poverty.
And people need to, if you're going to have these vicious dogs, you should have insurance in case they kill one of our children or kill me.
Okay.
Maxine, call the police commissioner's office, 313-596-1830. We love to hear from you.
Okay, Marcia, we appreciate it. We're at the end of the hour here. I want to thank everybody that's here today.
for the show. It got really intense, especially near the end here. And you're listening 910 AM, the Superstation. I want to thank Maxine for running the board as usual with it and lining up all the callers.
Maxine!
Yeah. To Tom, to Willie, and to Scotty. I want to thank you. You're listening to Robert Ficano, 910 AM, the Superstation. We'll be with you again next week.
There to help your problems and help you smile about it while finding a way to solve